can edit this little portion.
All right, guys, how are you? Phil Monteleone, the book peddler here, coming to you with another YouTube video. I'm sitting here with Jason Miller of C.S. Miller Books. He's agreed to do kind of like a little interview and take you guys through his experiences of book selling. This is it's your first official year, basically, having a brick and mortar. I know a lot of you out there have dreams, fantasies of starting a brick and mortar store, and I get asked a lot of questions, and I thought to myself, well, who better to answer some of these questions and maybe what to expect than Jason himself. So I won't take up too much airspace, but briefly, I think I met you probably 6 years ago or something, right?
Yeah. It's been a while.
It's been a while now. So I had obviously my shop out in Smithville, and we've done business together. And then Jason said he was going to open up his own shop. I came to the opening. It was a blast.
Remember the cello guy?
I do, yes.
Did you stick your pinky out the whole time?
I was tempted to. Every time it kept creeping up, I'd keep putting it down. So he had a great setup here, full with people. And I respect Jason a lot. It takes a very particular kind of person to do something like this. It's not all roses, and it's not the easiest thing. There's easier ways to make money, but we love it. He loves it. And it's very fulfilling in a lot of ways. So anyways, to cut to the chase, Jason Miller, guys, C.S. Miller Books. We're in the same county.
Yes.
We got great bookstores going. If you visit Jason, he's got an Airbnb he can hook you up with, and then you can visit both the stores if you would like. So
yeah, definitely. If you're coming through this area, you can't hit one without hitting the other.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm always, I super appreciate everything that you do, Phil. Not just in your shop, but also, like on your YouTube and, the different ways that you've just had discussions with me about how it is to be in this business. And I know that we go off and we'll end up, I'm just going to stop by for a minute, and then it'll be like an hour or two later. We're like, okay, I got to go now.
Well, you really connect with people that are in this same business, specifically with brick and mortar. Different stresses involved, different experiences. I mean, it's relatable. It's hard to find people, obviously, that do this and that you can shoot ideas and riff with. So it's been very beneficial for me as well. So, I appreciate you doing this. I think you guys are going to enjoy this. I got a list of things I wrote down, so I'm not an interviewer, but we're going to give it a roll.
You give me the old Walter Cronkite, or I don't know, Barbara Walters.
Barbara Walters, okay.
The first time I came into your shop, and I was like, yo, man, I'm going to be opening a shop. I've been selling books, and you're the first person that I really networked with, even, in New York State, as a whole, outside of just. You're the first person, so I just want to say thank you for being there for me, man, because it's always great to have somebody to talk to, and you always tell me, I'll call you back later. I gotta go, I can't talk right now. But no, I do appreciate everything that you do. I mean, you're doing some really great stuff in and of yourself.
Oh, well, thank you very much. That. And yeah, Jason's always been super supportive and means the world to me. So thank you as well. So when you started, maybe you could give a brief background as to where you kind of came from, what you were doing before selling books, and how you transitioned into it.
I'm a technologist by trade, so I've been basically I'm a hacker essentially by trade. I've worked through various research and development labs in technology. I'm a .comer from way back in there, 20 plus years ago. Jeez, I say that, but I've always collected books. I mean, most recently I served in some executive cybersecurity roles for some pretty large corporations, and I moved back to the area a bunch of years ago to have an impact on the community. A lot of people don't know that I'm a district administrator for Little League International, so I run a massive district with some of the best baseball in the country as a volunteer. I volunteer all the different stuff around town, and I felt like this is the next step in my journey in life. And plus, I was in my mid 40s, and I'm like, dude, it's now or never. It's like shit or get off the pot.
So did you always have a dream of opening a bookstore? Like, what was that transition like for you, basically? What lured you into this business?
Yeah, well, I mean, I always loved writing, and I loved literature, and I was going to go to college, and I was going to major in English literature, and I was going to be the next great, writer. I think I wanted to be Tom Robbins at that point in time. But when I went to go to, get money to go to college, my folks were like, yo, we don't have any money for you to go to college. So like a bunch of other poor people, I joined the Army so that I could get the GI Bill to go to college. So my path kind of changed because the Army gave me computers. They gave me things to work with, and it kind of built my career off of what I learned when I was in the military, and I got out and went to college. But I'd always loved books and writing, and I had collected books for years and years. And I mean, even in a lot of the books that are in my shop now, are from my personal collection. And so I was just collecting books, and I never thought that having a bookshop would ultimately be in the cards for me. But then my life was changing, and I just was kind of so fed up with everything. I was like, okay, well, let's go for it. And I actually wasn't really planning on opening a bookstore. I really just was gonna buy a building and put all my books in the building. Really, I just needed room for my books because I had about 60,000 books. Well, I have about 60,000 books, but at that point in time, I had like 10, 15,000 books. And then, I got the opportunity to buy, an antiquarian bookseller's whole entire inventory. And, I was basically like, yo, if I do this, then I have to take it seriously. I threw out a crazy number to this guy. He was like, okay. It was November. There was a snowstorm. I'm in this carriage barn with a few of my friends loading up a U-Haul. And
did they think you were crazy?
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, I mean, they still think I'm crazy. I mean, my best friend Adam, he still helps me a ton. He's in here on days. He's not a book guy at all. He's in here on days when I can't be here. He's helping me move all of these books. It's been tremendous. And I've had other friends like you, and all of my friends have just helped me, and my family has helped me, figure this out. And without a little bit of support, it's kind of a brutal life. Today's Tuesday. It's the first, I'm open Tuesdays now in the winter. If you want to come through, Tuesdays through Saturday, I'm here at 11. I usually leave around 6 to 7 or 5 on Saturdays. But it's my first Tuesday. I've been in here alone by myself all day and with my books. So.
I'd like to talk about that too a little bit. Sometimes the mental aspect. I know that when I first opened, I had, I don't know, maybe they were far out expectations, but sometimes you end up sitting alone in your shop, and it's very taxing mentally to stay busy and to stay focused and disciplined. Because it could be a little bit what's the word I'm looking for? Disappointing. I don't know.
Well, I'll build on the D word, right? It's depressing.
Yeah.
I opened in 14 months ago, so I opened in September of last year.
Okay.
And it was brand new. The word got out, but we're in a rural area.
Yeah.
So people aren't beating down my doors. I'm not on the main drag. Yeah. You have to come and find me through intent. So there are a lot of days where my to-do list sat there for weeks at a time. Yeah. I would just come in here and I would do the bare minimum and lay on this couch and sleep because nobody was coming through the door. And I know a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people, I've only been doing this for 5 years now. It was my side hustle up until I opened the shop. And even in that short period of time, I've seen people come and go. Like they've come, they shot their shot, and now they're gone. Some days can be very, very, very hard. And what I tell myself and you've heard me say it to you, like those small things, you got to do those small things really well, even the things that you don't want to do. And so I take the eat the frog mentality. So I try to like get myself into it when I can, but I do the shit that I don't want to do first. And then in theory, everything behind that's gravy. But then there's, again, even today, you know, you look at my to-do list, it's 1,000 miles long. And I might get a couple things off.
I think it's a great thing what you're saying, opening up people's minds is a little bit to what to expect, because this aspect of it goes, I think, overlooked a lot. It can be very lonely and taxing mentally, but like you said, if you get those little things done, if you can do it today and get it done, so that you don't have to think about it again. That's what I would say.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think you know, the reason I moved back to the area was so I could be involved in my community and make my community a better place. We don't have a bookstore in Norwich. We've had years. Like 20 years. There hasn't been a bookstore in Norwich. And I think that reading and literacy is kind of like the pinnacle to any culture. And so instead of squawking about it and bitching about it, I opened a bookshop. You know, and I've had to do a lot of things that I don't do. I've never worked in retail. Right. But thankfully, there's a ton of my network has grown so much over the last 5 years. I've just been so fortunate that people come out of the woodwork and you join some professional organizations and you learn things that you never would have thought about. But in order to have that community to stay in the community, you can't shoot your shot and just expect to be there for 3 months or 6 months or a year. And I'm sure that not everybody that jumps into this is trying to do that. But I'm like, okay, like if I can do this at least for 3 years, then we'll be good to go. And so I've done a lot of things that I think have already had an impact on my community. I've you know, donated books to the hospital auxiliary so that they could make money through their silent auctions. I've supported the theater programs. I've donated a ton of books to all these different organizations, whether it's the Friends of Recovery, even to the library, to the schools. And I've worked with the museum to bring in this author and we gave out 100 books for free. And I even hosted the Norwich High School creative writing / poetry program. And I think that those things are tremendous. And even the first author that I had here in the shop is a guy that a lot of people wouldn't have expected to be able to put out a book. And I'm so glad that I was able to have him here as my first author reading in my shop. And that brings a lot of people in, and a lot of these events are really cool. And so many people have come in. I've hosted poetry readings, and I'm, like people in the community have come out and had a blast, just like doing poetry. It's a lot of fun. Anyways.
And that's one great thing. You really work the bookshop angle of it and the community angle of it, hosting these events. And I definitely want to get into that as well. But I guess while we're on the topic, you've had good experiences with the events. What are some of them? What are some of the events that you've done? You have author signings. You're doing a show and tell one this week. Very creative, different stuff to get people in the door initially. So they turned out well for you.
Well, so I have had a couple of events bomb. Right? I offered a creative workshop for like 6th and 7th graders to participate in a contest that was being put on by one of the local politicians, and nobody came. Like literally nobody came. We have bookshops. We have book clubs that we host every month. There's 1 or 2 book clubs that come and they do their readings here. Upcoming, I have this. I stole it from Dave Peterson over at Mays Books in Rockford, Illinois. You should go check him out because he's a dope. He's another one of my go-to guys.
Great guy.
He did a show and tell, and I was like, dude, that's ingenious. And I'm like, I'm gonna bite that. So we're doing the show and tell later on this week. In a couple of weeks, we've got another Bad Poetry Reading Part 2, and we're doing we have a kids book club here. It's really from my daughter. It's called Just One More Book Club because before kids go to sleep, they always want one more book. So we're doing like this Polar Express thing. So maybe Santa's going to show up. We'll see what happens with that.
Awesome.
And whatever else. We've got a couple of guys. We got Charlie Plymell, who's like one of the original beat guys, coming in March. And just kind of really whatever you can dream up and think up. We've got a lot of other things that we're working on in the hopper that just aren't necessarily fully vetted yet, but definitely a lot more community stuff. Like we started with the Seal Valley Fishing and Heritage Association and the Chenango Historical Society. We've been focusing a lot on the Native American heritage, which is Native American Month, by the way. So you should go check out any local history. But we live on the land of the Oneida Nation, so we're going to hopefully continue that work. There's a couple of great books that have been published about the Revolutionary War and the impact that the Oneidas have had.
So was this something with the events, with the bringing in authors? Was this a part of the plan from the get-go? Because the activity level's quite high. It's something you're going to continue to expand upon. But was that aspect? Was that your vision? Having a bookstore to be able to host events like this,
Oh yeah, hell yeah. Yeah. Like, I mean, I lived in the city for a long time, so it would always be dope when you could go and listen to an author talk about their book, pick up their book, have it signed, meet other like-minded people, that kind of thing. And again, when it comes to culture, you want to have that in your community, right? Yeah. Like the literary arts is a fundamental thing. It's great to be able to sing and dance and perform on stage and draw pretty pictures and make stuff. Yeah. But like there is a tremendous amount, like I love reading, but there's a tremendous amount of work in art that just comes in putting your words on paper and getting it out there and putting yourself out there to begin with. And I feel passionate about having the ability to showcase or letting authors showcase their work here in my shop, as well as not just that part of it, but cross your fingers, we'll be able to do some other cool stuff that I just didn't get to, like calligraphy workshops, more creative writing workshops, things like making paper. Like those things are cool, and they all come together. And maybe if we get good enough, we'll be able to bind some paper with my new book press over there.
See that's great. I mean, your activity level, you're always formulating ideas and creating it, making it a reality. And it's so great to bring the community together and get that strong support back, and hopefully it continues to grow. So it's very impressive.
I mean, that's kind of the idea of like show and tell, anyways, right? You don't know, we've gotten kind of disconnected from our neighbors, so to speak, right? Thankfully, we live in a small area, so I know all my neighbors. Yeah. And our community here is still our community, and we have this kind of identity. But there's a lot of people here that we don't necessarily know. And so who knows what somebody's going to bring to a show and tell that you could learn something amazing. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like who knows?
Has that been part of the fun, learning from other people that come in?
Oh my God, yeah.
You probably.
Oh my God,
it's been one of my funnest things.
I learn so much from the people that come in here. It's just amazing. Yeah. So many amazing people just walk through the door, and they're sometimes they bring things with them, mostly books that so like when books come through the door, you get some amazing things, or people come in looking for something in particular, or they give you a suggestion on, hey, maybe try this or maybe try that. Yeah. Yep. It's amazing. I mean, especially like I have a couple of book clubs, and one of them is not really like in my wheelhouse. But the ladies that come, they bring a tremendous amount of food. They bring all of their sass with them, and they look at things a lot different than I do. And because of them, I do silly things like I just you've seen it here before, but like this area here is all opened up, so we can make these events more accessible. So we can get more people in here, you free up a little bit of the space. And, make it even better.
Definitely.
Yeah, so much. I still don't know shit.
Yeah. Every year though is just a tremendous amount of learning, whether it's with the business, refining your systems, what people are buying. I'm sure your eye gets attuned to things, and yeah, that's personally also something I love about that aspect. To take it back a little bit in terms of starting this business. Now everybody's situation is different out there, obviously financially, and the means to do stuff like this. Would you recommend most people keep their job, do it as a side hustle, or sink the boats? What are certain things? You start on Instagram, you're selling a lot of books on Instagram, you still have a foothold, a strong following.
Yeah.
But what would you recommend from the outset? Keep a part-time job, work into this, or what do you think?
That's a great question. And again, I mean, everybody's means are different, right? I'm not like a super wealthy individual. I did work for a long time, and I was slinging books on the side, like you said, through Instagram. Primarily only through Instagram.
Yeah.
It's pretty much my only digital outlet, aside from my personal website, which is csmillerbooks.com. It hasn't been updated in a while, but there's still good stuff on. I really didn't want to give in to go and putting my stuff on eBay. I didn't want to go on Etsy. I did. I tried it all though. I don't think I've sold like a big box of books. I sell large lots usually when I'm unloading stuff on eBay or Facebook Marketplace. I've done that. I sold a few things on Etsy, and I worked way too hard to want to budget in the 15% those places are going to take. Even though I have this job, I'm 5 days a week now. I was 4 days a week. I think having a part-time job can kind of keep you busy if you need. To be frank with you, I'm going to try to get a part-time government job just so I can get free healthcare.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need much money. I mean, paying rent, that was a non-starter for me. So let me just back that up. So one of the things when I said, okay, I'm going to do this is all right, I absolutely cannot pay rent.
Yeah.
Even $500 a month doesn't seem like a lot, but we're in a rural area. And if I make $500 a week in my shop, that's a good week. And again, I'm not in a high traffic area. I'm off the beaten path. Maybe that would be different if I had a storefront in downtown.
Yep.
But that's just not how I operate. Now, every now and then somebody comes in, and they'll, we don't have just used books for cheap and new books. We also have collectible books, and we have our own imprint as well that we kind of do well with. And so, no rent. I just can't, I don't know how to stress that enough. So the building pays me, right? Yeah. So that was kind of the most important thing for me. So I was in a good enough financial position where I was able to buy the building outright. So I don't have a mortgage or anything like that. But if I did have a mortgage, then again, that's kind of like paying the rent, but you're paying yourself. Yeah. So maybe it's a little bit better. But again, it's not going to... You're not just going to open the doors and people flock in and you're making money hand over fist.
I always stress that myself is own the building.
Yeah, own the building.
I mean, it becomes such a pressure situation. And we know people who we have mutual friends that we know that had to get out of spaces and they had no control over that aspect.
Yeah, so, just booted. Hey, I got to go.
So I guess you would say, if you can, I mean, that another factor is the health and stuff. You might be making X amount. Where's your health care coming from?
Yeah.
Where's it? So there's a lot to take into consideration when you're doing this. Everything looks glossy out there, but it's these little things that you got to be thinking about too. I think. I have a question for you. Was the Airbnb aspect of this, was that a part of your business plan or something that just kind of happened?
Yeah. So So when I bought the building, it had a bunch of empty apartments.
Mm-hmm.
So none of them were rented out. And so I decided, like, yeah, I'm going to try it, right? And I don't, I think it's working out pretty well, to be honest with you. I opened it in January. The first thing was to get a few renters in and just start getting some income just from the rent, to keep the lights on, keep me fed, and that kind of thing. And so I would say probably so. I think so. I think, I think like, once I had that third apartment, I was like, okay, let's just Airbnb it and see how it works out. And if it doesn't work out, then I have a fully furnished apartment that I can rent at above market value.
Sure.
But yeah, so I mean, I needed to buy a building that had at least, excuse me, goodness, it's the Coke. Sorry, guys. I needed to have at least 4 apartments. And so I have 3 apartments and an Airbnb. And I looked at a lot of different spaces. At one point in time, I almost bought like a giant Victorian that had only like 3 apartments in it, but then one of the apartments would have been gone, and so it probably would have been closer to a break-even point. But this one really kind of does me well. Now that being said, like this building, if you roll up to it, it's pretty unassuming. You're like, yeah, it's just some random weird building on a weird street. And when you walk in, now it's a lot different, and the apartments obviously are a lot different. So I had to invest in the entire building, right? Like, I had all these empty apartments that were dated, so you have plumbing costs, you have electric costs, you have gas costs, you have paint costs, you have flooring costs, you have, in the Airbnb case, you have to pay to decorate all of that stuff. You need all the furniture. All of the appliances were 40 years old, right? I mean, I couldn't, I had to rip everything out, put them all in. You have to do that yourself too, in order to save yourself money. Like if you're paying somebody to do that, it's going to cost you even more.
This whole bookstore, you did the flooring, the ceiling, the wiring, the walls, everything. A ton of sweat equity went into this.
Oh yeah.
How long did it take you to complete this shop? About when you got the building?
It was close to 2 years.
Wow.
It was close to 2 years.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work, man.
And the reason why it was close to 2 years is because one, I still had a job. I also was still hucking my books on Instagram. Yep. And my brother, I mean, this wouldn't be anywhere as close to what it could be without my brother and my dad.
It's wonderful.
My brother just helped me so much and spent tons of time here.
That's great.
Not just like getting it done, but also kicking me in the ass to get it done. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And my dad would always come in and be like, "Nah, you guys fucked that up."
Thanks.
But yeah, it's again, that's time and money.
It's a lot of effort to begin.
Yeah,
a lot of effort. Unless if you got gold lining on your shoes, you're gonna have to be putting in the
definitely
the work.
Do not, right? And I'm you know me, I'm a family man, so like I carve out a lot of time for my family.
Yep.
And you have to juggle all this stuff and
time management.
How good are you at time
Terrible.
management? Did I tell you about my to-do list? Wait a minute, I need to take a nap.
Yep, got to pencil that in somewhere. No, so what were these things? What were the unexpected things about doing this business? Maybe you couldn't have expected them until you started rolling. But does anything come to mind of what was unexpected in general?
How much time it takes to really just kind of organize books, get books, shelved, design aspects. I'm not like some super designer dude. I've never worked in retail. I know that the supermarkets put the cookies at the kids' eye level, so I try to do that with my books. Yeah. But I mean, if you look at my books, I mean, it's literally just 4 rows of books. It's nothing fancy. I think unexpected. The amount of community support has been unexpected. I wasn't sure, right? Like I was like, okay, is the community going to be into this? So I think that was unexpected. As far as like gotchas, I'd like to say I did a really good job planning.
Yeah.
But everybody's watched a million of those HGTV flip bit do it yourself shows,
Yeah.
and and something unexpected always comes up. And so I had a gas leak. Like when I first turned on the heat in this part of the building, that was not fun. I think the demand for new books is a lot higher than I expected. I thought I was going to come in and just be an antique book dealer, but I sell a lot of new books at this point, and it's been good in that it's forced me into like being more open-minded about what's coming up, what's on the market, and even like being able to just buy new books of classics. I mean, they do pretty well.
Do you, when it comes to the new books, because that was something else I wanted to touch. You get the new books in. How do you decide what's up there? Yeah.
A few different ways, right? Like one is I will read all of these. Like I'm on. Like I joined the what is it called, NABA, the North Atlantic Independent Bookseller Association. I joined the American Booksellers Association, and then I learned about a bunch of different tools like Edelweiss. I've joined like mailing lists from companies like Publisher Weekly, and then a lot of people use Ingram, and Ingram has a newsletter. And just learning the business, I've had some support from some booksellers. Like there's a gal up in Hamilton. She's the book buyer for the Colgate bookstore. Kate, thanks, Kate. You're the best. She just sent me an email this morning saying, hey, these are the top 50 youth books that we've sold in the last year in our shop. And so that's very helpful. Right?
Definitely.
And there's a lot of conversation. So this bigger part of the book community has been tremendously helpful.
Oh, that's awesome.
And of course, I see a lot of stuff on my Instagram. People float stuff to me. I try to keep a lot of like indie small press stuff in here because I think that those are maybe authors that aren't getting those massive paychecks, shit like that. But I mean, that's...
So you're able to keep your finger on the pulse a little bit of what's going on culturally, what's relevant.
Relevant to me.
Relevant to you. Yeah. So that's what you're curating, material like this and pitching it to the public a little bit.
Well, like I said, these book club people, they keep the pulse on, and the community keeps the pulse on those things. And so, a lot of people will come to me and be like, hey, do you have such and such? And then I'll look into it and I'll be like, oh, that's really cool. Or not really my scene, but like if people are going to like, this person, this author, Rebecca Yaros, she wrote like these YA Dragon Harry Potter sex books. And I'm like, okay, well, like, let's get them in. And they sold really fast, so...
That's now. Did you have mentors starting out, guys involved in the trade for a while that you can go to? You didn't apprentice under anybody.
No.
Would you recommend?
I just fucking went for it.
You went for it. Yeah.
Went for it. No shit. I still don't know shit, by the way. I'd say like I talk to you a lot, but I'd say like the first person that really became my mentor is a fellow. They call him the Road Warrior. But I had all these antique books, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I still had a job, right? So I took a week off so that I could go sell my books at Boukville, Madison Boukville. So I got a space at the Madison Boukville Antique Show. It's this massive show here in Central New York. And there was only one other book dealer out of like the 5,000 vendors that were there. This guy named Richard Morey. If you guys know Richard Morey, he's an amazing individual. If you don't know him, go check him out. You'll find him. And you know what? He has he just kind of took me under his wing, and he was like, like, this is what I know. This is some advice for you. These are some other people that you can meet. And then and from there, I started, he started telling me about other shows, and kind of telling me about, how he does everything. And the most important piece of advice that he gave me was basically that it comes down to numbers in, numbers out. It's a numbers game. And he'll tell you it's a numbers game, it's a numbers game, it's a numbers game. And by and large it is, right? And what I mean by that is so you can have a whole shelf full of $1,000 books. But you could sell one and that'd be great. But if you sell, 500 $20 books, what's the difference there, right? And so, he basically said, don't put all of your value into these really expensive books.
They could sit a very long time.
Yeah, and you have to connect them with the right buyer, which is what I lacked, right? And so, coming back to that networking thing, so Richard Moore is my first mentor. I started doing some other shows, and I met Sunday and Josh from B&B Rare Book, and they were super rad to me. And as has been Will Money over in Cooperstown, and John Spencer down in Owego at River Row. Again, all local. I mean, I guess Josh and Sunday live in New York City, but I mean, I'm in New York quite a bit. But I made these connections. I kind of do things a little bit differently. Like, I'll take Bitcoin. If somebody wants to buy something with Bitcoin, I'll sell it to them on Bitcoin. A lot of people don't do that, right? They're like, hey, write me a check. And that's a very real thing, by the way, in the book world. So get a checkbook. That was probably one of the things that surprised me the most. So I had these people that I started connecting with and making friends with, because I determined a long time ago, like, part of my path and my plan was to become a member of the Antiquarian Bookseller Association of America, ABAA. And, so meeting these people at an ABAA show, my first real book show was Cooperstown, like 4 or 5 years ago. And that's just where I've gone since then.
You keep walking into questions before I ask them, which is
I'm
awesome.
sorry.
It's awesome because you're very active at the book fairs. Were you doing these before you opened your brick and mortar? You were.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And your experience in them has been good overall. I mean, talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. It's tough, right? Again, some of these book shows are not inexpensive.
Yep.
You have to pack up all your stuff. You have to travel. You have to pay somebody to be in your shop if you're not going to be in your shop. But before I had the shop, I still had to take time off of work.
Yep.
To travel to where I need to. And so when you have a job and you have a guaranteed income, it's a little bit more palatable. But I mean, it's still expensive, and you still, if you boil it down to what Mr. Morey says, is numbers in, numbers out, right? And so you still want to make enough money to be able to continue to do that. And I guess there's a couple of different ways to do book fairs. And my end goal is, at the very least, I want to break even. And so I think out of all of the shows, I've never lost money. Knock on wood.
There you go.
I've never lost money. I've broken even. But by and large, I make a few bucks, and I've had a couple of really good shows. And what I like about having really good shows is that, that puts me in a position where I can get new stuff.
Yes.
And you guys all out there, right? So I'm sorry, I got to lean into this one because what is the best part of this business is getting new stuff, right?
Fresh material.
It's fresh material. That hunt, that find, that little, hey man, you think you'll do this for $150?
And you're networking. You're creating relationships. It's such a high activity level setting up at these. So you sleep in the van half the time, probably.
No, all the time.
All the time. There you go.
I sleep in my van so I can save myself money, so that if I do have extra money, I can justify it. My costs aren't high. I sleep in my van. I know. It's not by the river. It's usually on some side street, well lit, maybe a Walmart parking lot. Starbucks is pretty good. But, that's so I can have extra money to buy books.
Yep. You're cutting costs.
Yeah,
You gotta cut your costs.
again, I'm just managing my costs. This is another avenue of doing business.
So far, it's like predominantly from what I'm hearing, cash flow, very important.
Yeah, cash flow.
Own your own building. Activity level high, possibly keep your job for a minute till you build. Again, a lot of people have the dream of doing this, but they don't see the inside of it, and you're giving that insight right now.
It's so much work.
It's on in your marketer, your bookman, your everything.
Yeah.
So this is a business ultimately. So
no, it is a business, and my boss is a giant dick.
Yeah, man. He has good days, bad days.
Just don't get him on the wrong day. It's a lot of work. And it doesn't stop, right? Like
Never.
so some people are like, oh, well, you own your business, you make your own hours and shit like that. And I can, right? But if I want to succeed, I have to work very hard. Yeah. I can't just throw a few books on Instagram and hope somebody will buy it. I can't just leave the same stuff out here and hope somebody's going to come in and buy it. There's tons of stuff that I haven't even done that I need to do that I haven't done.
Yeah. Yep.
That will help me sell books.
I want to let you guys know out there that this isn't to deter you from trying to start a bookstore. But I do believe I'm also not a cheerleader for everybody too out there. I mean, I think it's just as important as your job to be dissuaded as well, because because this is the reality of it. It's tough. It's very rewarding in many ways, but realistically, there's easier ways to make money.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So what are you doing it for? I think you got to really love and be obsessed with this business to do it. It's probably changed your lifestyle to a large degree.
Oh yeah, for sure, sure. Like, I don't have Saturdays to just go ride my mountain bike for 10 hours anymore, right? I mean, I guess I could do that, but I don't do that right now because I need to be here. So,
Did you set daily goals as to what you'd like to bring in, or weekly or monthly?
Absolutely. Daily goal. Okay. I have a daily goal that I try to meet every day.
Now, do you see yourself perhaps in the future maybe exploring the online market a little bit more, finding a site, or are you kind of more so still opposed to it, or you keep open to it?
No. Listen, I get, again, being a technologist, I understand why these platforms charge fees. They've got eyeballs, they have development costs, they have marketing costs. I understand all of the reasons why they charge those fees. And most importantly is most of them have shareholders. And if they don't have shareholders yet, they've got somebody that's invested in them that wants that 50% of that company, and they need their money back, right? Yeah. And so they have to charge these fees. Yeah. And I get it. And I respect it. I got no qualms with it. I don't have any qualms with people selling shit on eBay unless they're fakes, you fuckers. But like I said, I've sold a few things on eBay and Facebook Marketplace, usually in large lots. I've done a few whatnot auctions. I know that I'm going to be doing a couple more whatnots. Well, at least I know I'm going to do at least one more. I think I've been watching. I've actually been. I watched it a ton before I ever did my first show. Like, I just watched and watched. And then, I did a few, and they're just kind of like, okay, whatever. And I was doing like kind of the live sales on Instagram. And it's a lot of manual work to do the live sales on Instagram. And you're not always necessarily guaranteed views. Not that you're guaranteed views on any of these other platforms either, but I've seen what you've done over the last few months, and I think I actually discouraged you. Like, fuck, what not? And I went to like a show that you did one night when I was in my van. I was like, okay, well, I don't have anything else to do. I'm in my van, so I might as well watch Phil. And I just was like, I was like, okay, dude, like I see what, like how you approach it, and you take a different approach, and it seemed to work out. And, I just need to market it better, right? Like, I think you do a great job marketing your events, and you are, you've been, with some of your other platforms that you work on, you've been at it for a long time, right?
It's been a marathon.
Yeah, it takes time to build, and you build tons of relationships, like even customer bases, right?
Yes.
Like, and even me, I have a few customers that which is important. But yeah, I will do some other platform stuff.
It's funny because there's more options than ever right now, and it's almost like a little overwhelming. But would you say that if you picked one and honed in on it, one that you like, it could be just as good as another one?
Absolutely.
Okay. And what do you think about the live auction selling? Is it a thing of look? There's always been auctions,
sure.
But whether that's Whatnot or another platform, what do you think in terms of future of selling books? You like it? Are you waiting to see? What do you think?
The future of selling books. My daughter was in here earlier. I pick her up from school. It's one of the cool things about having my own shop. And so I get to pick my kid up from school. She comes here. She wanted to help me. I was sorting and stacking books. And I think she wants to work here. Right? Yeah, she wants to be a bookseller.
It's awesome.
And so what is that going to look like for her? I've thought about it. And I think that, like, she's obviously going to have an advantage because she's learning as a baby, right?
Yeah,
I mean, she's a baby, and so she's going to have so much more knowledge just based on being around it, and having me around it for as long as I'm here, hopefully, which is for a long time. And I think live selling is really, really amazing. Like, I like the idea of live selling. I can remember days where I would just be zoned out, like you'd be clicking on like QVC and you'd be watching these dudes like selling baseball cards. Yeah. And so I think that like live auctions are kind of like that. I've never worked in retail. I'm not like a sales guy. I'm working on it. And so I think that some of those platforms will continue. I think those platforms will continue to exist.
They'll be interesting.
I mean, Facebook Live is starting to do it. Amazon has it. There's a reason why they bought the Twitch platform. So they're starting to do a lot of these live influencer stuffs and trying to bring people to their platform so that they can sell live. So I think that there's something to it. I believe I read someplace eBay Live is going to be happening pretty soon.
Yeah, they've started to kick it up a little bit. Yeah.
Again, I mean, what's going to happen when eBay gets its claws into it? But for me, I think, technology is in a really interesting place right now. And sorry, this has been my career, so I'll try not to. So our behavior and the way that we interact on these digital platforms, it's become a bit of a challenge for a lot of people because they don't disconnect, right? And so there's a lot of people that are kind of losing their grip on what's real versus what's not. And, hopefully we can sort that out. And I think that we're already starting to see that in a lot of the younger folks, right? They're starting to be like, yo, this shit is not good for my mental health. I'm just going to go ride my bike or go for a run or read a book. Because, dude, just last week, we had here in our small community, and I don't mean to be somber here, we had a 16-year-old girl who took her own life after being cyberbullied. And I mean, that's a huge stone being tossed into the community. And so it really awakens, parents, hopefully to a degree, to like not put that tablet in their kid's face. And so these platforms will still be here. I think it's going to shrink. I think people are going to get back to the kind of like being a lot less dependent on technology. I think there's going to be a revolt against the technocrats.
Well, it's funny. For everything, there's going to be probably some type of equal opposite reaction.
There's going to be a correction, yeah.
And, things like a bookstore that brings back a nostalgia, a physical touch and actually socializing
Yeah.
in the events is something that I think helps assist in that movement,
Hell yeah.
possibly back, because this is real. You know what I'm saying?
Not 100%.
Not a sock puppet on a screen.
Dude, you can read something right now and then go back in 2 seconds and look at it, the same thing again, and it's changed. These books that are on the shelves, they can't change. I've had some, I recently sold some, in my opinion, it's very racist stuff. I had it. I didn't burn it. I didn't throw it in the trash. But I sold this. And one of the points that I had to selling this stuff was that, listen, this is somebody's ideology. Somebody believed this. And they wrote it down in a book, and that can never be changed. And so whether it's from some sort of anthropological, cultural perspective that you take this piece of whatever, or if you just put it on a shelf as a talking point, it has some fragment of history that cannot be changed. And those words are always there, right, wrong, or indifferent. Okay,
whether you agree with it
whether
or not,
you agree with it or not,
it's almost like our duty to
100%
preserve
is. Yeah.
this material.
Absolutely.
And where do these ideas come from? Counteract them with better ideas that might be on the shelf, but you just don't truck it in the can. No. Yeah, this is a place where you could actually build and grow upon your thoughts and refine your mind. I know we've gotten a little carried away from but this is a great aspect about being surrounded with material like this. I think how your views are refined, the people you meet, helping that process as well. This is the very fulfilling part of it, and keeps you motivated to keep trucking on this.
Hell yeah! I mean, anybody can walk in this store, this shop, and learn whatever they want to learn. Not only can they learn whatever they want to learn based on what I feel I've curated is pretty nice, they can find tremendous amounts of stuff that they can just space out in, instead of like sitting there like this, doom scrolling. Right? They can find something on the shelf, and they can sit down with their kid, and they can read it with their kid.
I listened to your interview with Max of Paper Gold, and you brought up the name John Taylor Gatto. I recommend everybody out there to look into John Taylor Gatto. He had a huge influence on my life, actually, right when I got out of high school, and dumbing us down in American education. Yeah. And that's something, I know this is not about myself, but it helped influence me into doing what I'm doing today. I'm sure he influenced you.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, when you mentioned him, I was like, oh, right on.
Again, there's, so I didn't talk about this, and I'm glad you brought it up. I forgot to listen, I'm not just a library, I'm a resource for homeschool people. Definitely. Like, there's a lot of people that, myself included, my daughter's not in public school. They're not getting the education that they need. And there are a lot of people that are taking that on themselves. I mean, people are starting to reel from like this kind of constant grind. And that's really, I mean, my bookshop is a product of that. Like, sitting on this grind nonstop. They're paying me boatloads of money, but guess what? They don't give a crap about me. They don't give a crap about my family. They're gonna have a pizza party on Friday, and on Monday they're gonna be like, "Oh, by the way, we need to pay our shareholders more, so buy." You know what I mean? Like, and again, sorry, but yeah, John Taylor Gatto, man. Yeah. We're a resource for homeschool, and I actually do have somebody working on starting a county-wide homeschool resource.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And have these pods basically be hosted here. Wow. So like these kids can come in and they can learn whatever it is that these guys are sharing, because everybody has something that they can learn from.
See, this is becoming much more than a bookshop. It's ideas. It's a beautiful thing. I love it.
It's a community space. Man.
It's a community space. So yeah, Gatto's incredible individual, and we actually got to get some material off of him.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I got a check story on that material, right? So So, John, can I tell the story? Do we have time?
Yeah. What do we?
I don't know.
Oh, we're at almost an hour.
well,
We'll let it
okay.
roll. This is. I'm having fun.
I got that Dunwich horror from you, and it was all marked up. And then later on we discovered that they made these spoken words of it. So Gatto was a Lovecraft historian, biographer, and he wrote all this stuff. And him and his wife in the 70s, they basically put out these giant records, which were spoken word of telling, their audiobooks before audiobooks were a thing, telling Lovecraft's story. And so, I got that Dunwich horror off you that had all of basically the script.
Yeah.
And so I built this collection. I went and found all these different pieces that Gatto had done and all the different things that they'd done. And I put it together and I took it to the Cooperstown Book Fair. And this woman, it was the end of the show. I'd broken even. I was like, okay, this is good to go. And this woman, she was like, I want to take all this, and I had a hefty price tag on it, and I was like, okay, well, we negotiated the price, and she was like, will you take a check? And I was like, no. Again, I work in cybersecurity and risk now, right? So I'm like, no. And so she starts walking away. And somebody that knows this person comes up to me and he's like, no. You want to take her check.
Yeah.
And if I didn't take that check, I would have missed out on $1,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that was that Dunwich. I built that little collection, and it was a nice little collection.
And that what was cool about that when because I sold you the Dunwich book, I think there might have been another one, but this is also a working aspect and where resourcefulness comes in.
Yeah.
Jason did the work. He was willing to sit there, do the work, marry material together, enhance the sale, and make the sale. That's how you do it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's great. That's what we do.
And it takes a tremendous amount of time to learn the material. That's our job. Is really kind of understanding what it is that we have from a collectible perspective and from an antiquarian, and whatever the specialties we have, whether it's beats and Americana or counterculture stuff. Like, you have to kind of immerse yourself and really have that understanding.
And you begin to recognize value when you see something that you might have not necessarily before, but just that experience that you continue to grow in, right? It's another very fun part about doing this business.
Oh, yeah. It's great.
Well, we're an hour in, so I got a few just quick, fun questions. What's your favorite thing about running the shop?
The people.
The people. What's your favorite book by to date?
My favorite book by?
Yeah, that you bought.
I probably picked up Neuromancer first edition.
Very cool. Very cool. Do you have a favorite author, favorite book, favorite genre?
Neuromancer.
Okay.
My favorite author is probably still Tom Robbins.
Okay.
I can tell you my friend Phil Friedenberg's been putting out some really cool books that are like postmodern maximalist metafiction. They're amazing.
Cool.
He's contemporary. But dude, it's so hard to list just one. There's so many good writers.
Yeah. There is. What's your vision going forward? Where do you see yourself in 10 years with the shop?
10 years, man. All right, so this is my whole altruistic thing here. Okay, bear with me. So hopefully 10 years from now, my if we can grow this a little bit. Get it to a really where it's humming along. I would like to have some at-risk youth work in the shop.
Okay.
Running it. So we have a lot of those kids. And I was inspired by a business out in Waltham, Massachusetts, More Than Words. Every single kid that runs that bookshop is in the foster care system.
Oh, okay.
And so if we can do that here,
wow, that'd be special.
That would be amazing.
Very cool. Last question. So you're giving a lot of your experiences. If you can give a viewer out there one piece of advice before they start to open up their dream and potentially running a bookstore that'd be most beneficial when it comes to creating this, what would it be? Is there something that stands out to you that you would tell somebody?
Man, I would say you have great taste, but your customers have better taste than you.
Ooh, nice. Very good.
So
very good.
That's my
Very true.
that's my advice.
That's a good piece of advice right there. That's a little gem. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna link up. Yeah, dude,
Thanks,
it's been a lot of fun. You got me going. I can't believe we went an hour. I'm linking up all of his information. He also runs a podcast with Brooklyn Attic
Books. Yeah.
So you can check that out. Very enjoyable. I'll link up all this stuff, and I'm going to show you a brief tour of the shop. Thank you all for tuning in. You can like, subscribe, do all that nonsense. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Take care,
Thanks,
guys.
Phil.
You got it, brother. Hey, guys, so this is the front foyer of Jason's shop. You got a lot of vintage books here filling the wall. Very cool. Got a book trough. He puts this outside, and we'll just walk back here. He has his new books on display here that we were talking about. Different popular authors, different kind of... Oh, here's the Road, Cormac McCarthy. That's pretty cool. Graphic novel. Hunger Games. Very cool. I'll take you to his cabinet over here. This has some cool titles in it. And then I'll actually back up and give you the full view. Let me go a little slower so that you guys can get a good look. Oh, I just got that book in, actually. William Gaddis. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Stack right there, some big old coffee table books. And here's the view when you walk through that foyer. So just lined with great material. Here, I'll take you to the back here corner. We'll kind of go through tons of paperbacks here.
Yeah, that's all science fiction and fantasy.
Yeah, that's quite a collection. All sci-fi and fantasy.
We got mass market paperbacks, like literature. This is hardcovers on this side.
All hardcore sci-fi, fantasy. Would you say what's probably your bestseller in the shop genre-wise? Horror.
Sci-fi.
Sci-fi. How's horror do?
Horror does really well also. Yeah, I've done pretty well with the horror.
Stephen King. It's hard to go wrong with Stephen King. People still eat him up, don't they?
Yeah.
Mystery thrillers. Actually, let me turn over here. Here's some more. How's your paperback sales compared to the hardcovers?
You can't beat it. I mean, these are used books. I mean, the most you're paying for most of these used books is, $8. I mean, you have a few, you have a few here and there that are, a couple $100, but that's the best section right there.
Erotica.
Literary erotica. It's a lot of ton of sleeves, but it's a lot of Grove Press, a lot of anthropological stuff with regards to,
fun stuff.
Human sexuality.
It's funny, kind of, because like different presses. I mean, at least for me, when I'm on a pick or a book buy or whatever, you start seeing publishers, and I just start scooping them quick. Like Grove. Yeah. Let's see this.
This is my mental section. I call it mental. This is religion, philosophy, psychology,
nice.
All of that stuff.
Loaded up.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff.
Then if you turn here, here's where the kids section is. Got some coffee right there. You say you're not a salesman. That's the covers sell it. That's perfect marketing. So there you go.
So YA and kind of like the collectible kids books or vintage antique kids books.
There's the signed C.S. Miller books. Got a nice lounge area. This is where the events are hosted back here.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of walk over here. Actually, we'll walk down the middle. Here's some occult, esoteric.
That stuff sells really fast too. My local section, it's a small local section that really gets hit pretty well.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Yeah, you got some good local apples in New York. Nice staple. I think you have the pears in New York that I look at every single time and ask you on it. 9 Mile Swamp, very popular material. That's the Loomis Gang. I've mentioned them before in some of my videos, but it's good to have a nice curated local section. Nice visual ones here. Easton Press, Franklin Library. So, all right, we'll turn the corner. Here's some more. There's some antiquarian books back here. Student Encyclopedia. Sermons by the Devil. It's pretty cool. That's a cool title. Our Deportment. Like etiquette, see?
Yeah, there's some cool like surgery books up here, like on early like surgery.
Very cool. Some nonfiction history. Then I'll kind of turn the camera over here. Modern library books. I still sell a good amount of them.
Hey, listen, I mean, if you want to get into like book collecting, you know, like starting with these modern libraries is a great way to pick up a lot of great literature and very affordable, and they're pretty dope, man.
Yeah.
And you know, you got these
Salinger.
great covers, you know, good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Kafka, you know, there's Faulkner.
Yep.
You know, there's so much good stuff in these modern libraries.
And they're affordable.
They're
They're,
super
they're
affordable.
awesome.
Yeah.
And here's some of the newer
Yeah.
covers there. Yeah, that's good stuff. Some games. Here's some. So this holds all nonfiction. And then here's some of the presses that Jason's been involved with. Which, man, these are beautiful books. Again, kind of occult works.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're all facsimiles of like, you know, 15th, 16th, 17th century. Like this is Malleus Maleficarum. King James Demonology up there is probably our bestseller. We probably sell, and I mean, these books are amazing, dude. Like, look at the back.
Oh yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah.
Nice quality work right there.
Yeah, and they're actually gorgeous books.
And they can buy these on your site if they're interested.
Etsy.
Etsy, okay. Are they under C.S. Miller?
They're under Hexenhammer Verlag.
Hexenhammer Verlag. Okay. Yeah, look at that. That's great stuff.
1597 originally. It's all about like summoning demons and shit like that.
Crazy. Very cool.
This is like a lot of Corona Samizdat and like the Zank books and Deep Vellum and Dalkey.
I follow this guy.
Yeah, Phil Friedenberg, man. That book is awesome. He's got another one coming soon, man.
You guys can follow him on Instagram. But yeah, great stuff. All right. We're closing out the video. It's been fun.
Hey,
see you guys.
Thanks a lot. See you guys.
We'll see you.